So first of all, thank you all for coming. It's lovely to see you all. I thought it'd be really nice, since we've all been sort of isolating in bits and pieces over the last 2 years, to actually get together and see some faces that I haven't seen for ages. It's lovely to see you soon. I haven't seen you for absolutely ages. So thank you for coming, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm just celebrating my 50th birthday. It'd be just nice to celebrate with all of you. So thank you very much, everyone. And so obviously for my 50th, I decided I'd do something a little bit nutty and more challenging than my usual nutty selves that I do. So I decided I'd go and climb Mont Blanc. So I'm just going to do a little short presentation about a little bit about myself, and then a little bit about the trip that I'm going to be doing. And I'm doing it for Bedford Daycare Hospice, which is where you all are tonight. And the general manager here, Stephen, he's going to give you a short talk afterwards and tell you what it is that you're giving your money to. Thank you. So let me see if I can do it. So there's another new technology thing I have learned over the last 2 years. I've now done a PowerPoint presentation. So fingers crossed it works. Please work. Where do I have to aim it?
Try aiming at your laptop and see what that
Aim that, I'll just press the button.
It was working perfectly before, wasn't
It
it?
was, wasn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
So visit's opening next week. I'm doing the trials and then.
That's where I'll zip it.
Say next slide, please. Like this way.
So, a little bit about me then. So, I finished university in '95, and my first job was actually in a disabled sports centre in Oxford. And it was in Oxford that I met my lovely husband Stephen over there, who's being our cameraman today. So I trained there, learning how to do weight training and obviously how to train people like yourself. And I also taught gymnastics and trampoline, which you might not know. And then we moved back to Bedford in '99, mainly to get married. And I got a job at De Montfort University where I was their duty officer. So quite interestingly, the road behind here was part of De Montfort University, it's now all flats, and I used to have to look after that and on my motorbike go over to the Pole Hill site and look after stuff there as well. And I also worked up the hill at LA Fitness when it first opened. I was one of the first staff there when it first opened. And while I was there, I was also one of their prime time coordinators, which was arranging activities for the over 55. So I'm almost there now, which is quite ironic really. But it was a lovely group. Just trying to think, I don't think any of you lot are from that group. No, you're not actually. That's quite interesting. So the group there, so it was for over 55s. We did let a couple of 50-year-olds sneak in. We did everything from aerobics, Pilates, yoga, weight training, and we organised lots of social events like walks to hikes to pubs, pub lunches, trips to London, trips to the theatre. We went on the London Eye, and it was just a really nice group to have social stuff as well as exercise. And I think it's that which makes people stay and do the exercise more, which is why with the classes, I think if you can talk or you know a friend or you know so-and-so's coming, it makes you come along and then join in more. So hopefully, you know, by coming along tonight as well, you might have met some new people and made some friends. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying earlier, I became self-employed in 2004, so I've been here quite a long time now, and I've taught Pilates, Aqua, a class called Body Balance, which is a mixture of Tai Chi, yoga and Pilates, and Body Vibe, which is a bit more aerobic-y, so I was not very good at that, so we sort of left that one. I've taught at Dragons, I've taught at Trinity, Golds, Towers, and various community classes. So all the local gyms I've been around the block, apart from Robinson's. And I've taught for the council as well. But now I teach basically mainly for myself, as you all know, and you all come to my lovely community classes, and we now do it online as well. And Leanne here, she's one of my online ladies. So that's a little bit about me. And then obviously some of you know some of the stuff I do, but you might not know all the stuff I do. So as well as the classes, I do individual sessions. I've done some corporate sessions. And then I also do personal training again, which can vary from one person to 2 people to a small group. Anything from indoors, outdoors. With the COVID, it was great using the local parks, or at people's homes. And then I also do some more specialised stuff, which is really sort of where this place fits in. So I'm qualified in stroke rehabilitation, cancer rehabilitation, and low back pain, and pre and postnatal. Don't do quite so much pre and postnatal nowadays. Probably more cancer stuff today nowadays. So I teach here on a Friday, and the ladies. Actually, we do have a gentleman, but he hasn't stayed for the class yet because he's had other appointments. But there's usually a group of about 6 to 8 people, I think they've got that now. And we all sit in the chairs around here and we do some chair yoga, which is really important for them to have some quality time and some me time. And the breathing exercises, particularly in yoga, is especially beneficial to them. So that's what I do here on a Friday. Okay. Which is why I wanted to support this place. Okay, now here's a big long list, which is quite embarrassing. Various fundraising events I've done over the years. So, I've run the London Marathon 5 times. The first time I did it was for Bedford Hospital charity, and I blame my husband for this one. So, my husband was very ill, 2007?
Yes.
Something like that. Nearly died. And so because of that, I don't normally run up. So because of that, I decided to run the London Marathon. Actually, with my friend Kili as well, and she wanted to run a marathon before she was 40, and she's about a year older than me. And I thought, God damn it, if she's going to do a marathon, I'm going to have to do one. And actually, it was something I'd always wanted to do since the age of 11. So I decided I'd go and run the London Marathon, which was really tough, and I've got some pictures to show you as well. I really enjoyed it though, and so much so that I did it again in 2012. 2012 I did it for Orchid Men's Charity, mainly because my dad had just been diagnosed with prostate cancer. So that was quite an important charity for me. And then in 2014, so I had a sort of year's rest in between then. 2014 I did it for Help the Hospices charity. Have you heard of them?
Yes.
Yeah. And sarcoma charity, because my sister-in-law at the time, she had a sarcoma. Unfortunately, she died just after her 50th birthday. But good news, I also ran it in 2015, got a personal best. So I've now knocked my marathon time down to 3 hours 38. I was hoping to get it down to 3 hours 30, and I can keep that pace for about 20 miles, and then it all falls apart. So I've had to give up on that. And I did Great Ormond Street Hospital because my niece, when she was born, she had to go there, but she's perfectly fine now. She's 23 and absolutely fine. And then my last one I did was in 2016 for bowel cancer. I had 2 of the ladies who came to my Pilates classes, both different classes. Both their husbands were diagnosed with bowel cancer, so I thought it'd be good to support them, and so I chose Bowel Cancer charity to run for. So there's my London Marathon expeditions. I've also done the Bournemouth Marathon, which I did, I don't know if you remember the Nepalese earthquake. It was in 2015, and as I'd just been to Nepal to climb to base Camp Everest, I sort of had connections with Nepal, so I decided that would be a good one to do. And it's a lovely marathon, you run along by the beach, it's fantastic. If anyone wants to do it, it's a good one I can recommend. I started my running career sort of doing the Race for Life, the 5k and 10k, so if you're at that level, you know, you can aspire. It took me 6 months to go from 5k to a marathon, okay? So I can train you if you're interested. First 10k I did, I nearly died. I thought, what am I doing? That's blame that on my husband chucking water in my face. So like running along, I'm really hot, so just chuck water at me. So he did, but I had my mouth open and my nose open. So I nearly drowned. Thank you for supporting me. And then I did the 10k for the Lullaby Trust as one of my clients. She lost one of her children. And then we both did the Shine Marathon Walk. So that was a walking marathon, and it was the worst marathon I have ever done. Mainly because I think mentally I'm used to like 4 hours, you know. It took us, what, about 8 hours?
9.
9 hours, yeah. So it was the worst marathon ever.
9 o'clock at night till whatever time you finish in the morning.
8 or 9 in the morning, yeah.
It's all through the night.
It was an interesting marathon. You walk the streets of London, you see everyone partying and going to bed and then getting up again. But no, not good for walking. So as I mentioned, I also did base Camp Everest. Again, this was a sort of link to my husband because he'd been in intensive care and they were doing research into the effects of low blood oxygen. So now when your SATs, as they say, how your blood oxygen levels are and why it is some people in intensive care are struggling when they're on like 95%. And yet the Sherpas, the guys in the Nepalese mountains, they're on about 60% and they're climbing the mountains. So, you know, why? So we were looking at the genetics and things on that, and it was fascinating. I could talk for hours about that, but I won't. And then my last big trek I did was Kilimanjaro. which I did in 2019. And I did that for Pancreatic Cancer UK and Macmillan, again because a friend of mine had pancreatic cancer, and another friend's husband, he also had it, so we thought that'd be a nice one to do. Had a great time there. I'm not used to camping in tents, so that was my first experience of camping in tents on the mountain, and having to learn how to go to the loo on the mountain, so So my next big adventure, obviously, is climbing Mont Blanc, so I'm actually going to be doing that in July, and let me tell you a little bit more about that. Get the mouse to work. Okay, some pictures first. Now there will be some squeamish pictures, but I will warn you. Okay, so sorry, can you see all right there? Yeah. Okay, so first of all is my first 10k that I did in Milton Keynes, and then 2010 was my first London Marathon. So you can see it starts off looking nice, it gets harder, and then you finish exhausted. However, that is what I ran with for about mile 9. I didn't even look at it until I got home, because I thought, I'm not taking my shoe off till I get home. Oh, sorry about the squeamish face. It's actually a blood blister on top of the blister. 2012, that's me running for the Orchid charity, and it was also the year of the London Marathon, so that was the countdown clock in Trafalgar Square, which of course you had to go and have your photo taken by. And then 2014 I ran for Help Hospices, and so this is a picture of my parents. They had come to every single marathon event I had done. They had been along to half marathon events and various other things, and they are really good supporters. They probably walked more miles than I did in the marathon. They were charging around London trying to take photos of me. In fact, those are the photos they took of me. So. And this actually isn't my niece's, this is my cousin's children. And I stayed with them because they lived near the start of the London Marathon, so I stayed with them, I think, twice. And they managed to come out on the streets and saw me and cheered me. It goes near where they live, so that's quite nice. Oh yeah, this is a squeamish photo, so if you don't like, look away. This is me running for Great Ormond Street, and that year my parents had tickets in the stands, so the stands are down the mall, so you've got Buckingham Palace and the finish is down the mall there. So that was called the mall? No. And so they had seats in the stalls there, so they saw the elite runners finish, and they also saw me finish. And they managed to get this fantastic picture here, so that's Tower, London Tower, in the background there. Me coming round, that's about halfway around the course. And then obviously got a smile for the photos and the finish. So that year I was running for, that's the last one, 2016, running for Bowel Cancer. And so I did it as a Tinkerbell. One of my nieces green top. And there was some other fairies running around the course with me. And then as you can see, I tend to have a habit with my left foot of getting a blister in exactly the same place. And just a few little blood toenails, but I've never lost a toenail yet. So that's that. So there's my injuries. So something was telling me to stop running and do something else. So we do trekking and climbing. So my trekking climbing experiences. So I've done Scarfell Pike, Snowdon, Ben Nevis, the sort of usual ones people do. Anyone else done them? Yeah, so we have. Walking in Austria, Switzerland, Germany, so in the Alps. When we were on holiday in New Zealand, we did a heli hike. So we flew on a helicopter up onto this glacier. You get out on the glacier, and then they take you on a little hike around the glacier. So that was my first experience with crampons. Now, I'm going to have to learn how to use crampons again. So, this is a pair of crampons. They have nice sharp pointy bits, and you attach them to your climbing boots. And when you're walking up the mountain, I can't remember which way around it is now, but it's like either that way for going up and that way for going down. And that's how you use them. And I've got my ice packs and helmet and other things there you can look at afterwards as well. So really, that's the extent of my climbing experience. I have done what they call a cliff and climb wall, which is where you're harnessed on, and it's like a room like this with different bits that you can climb up and down, and it's quite safe and simple, really. Trekking, so height-wise, I've been up to Base Camp Everest, which is 5,364 metres. And then Kilimanjaro, which is actually a little bit higher, so we climbed up that, and I'll show you some pictures, and you actually look down on the Everest Base Camp itself. And then Kilimanjaro is the highest one I've done to date, which is 5,895. So Mont Blanc isn't as high as that, but it's going to involve more crampon work and ice axe work and stuff like that. So let me tell you about my training. Oh no, I've got a couple of pictures first. So this is my trek up Everest. So when we went up Everest, we have what they call yaks, and they carry our big kit bags there, as you can see. Now this little box here is a step. I was doing it as part of a medical experiment, and every morning we had to get up and down on the step, take your blood pressure, take your heart rate, and various other medical experiments that we did for them. So the second picture here is Kala Pattar. It's not the big white one. I'm just going to use this. So this is Kala Pattar, and you look over here to base camp Everest and up to Everest. Okay. This was actually the tent. So the first time that I went, we actually camped on the glacier. So you're camping on the ice. You can hear it crack and move beneath you. We were supposed to stay there for 3 nights. I managed 1 night. And then, as you can see, I got helicoptered back down. But I'll tell you about that another time, if you want to know about it. You walk across these lovely hung-up rope bridges, which can be quite scary for some people. This here is looking at the Khumbu Glacier. And Everest itself is actually not that peak, it's round the back there, so you can't actually see Everest itself when you're at base camp. This is the glacier as well, and I think, that's just one of the villages we stayed at. This one made me laugh. It says internet service available, battery charging available, geyser shower.
Did you get altitude sickness and stuff like that?
Not really, no. I got out of breath slightly, but the main reason on that one was I hadn't been very well before I went, and I think I hadn't really recovered, and then we all got the diarrhoea and vomiting, and it just affected my electrolytes and things. And because we were actually with a load of doctors, they had all the ECGs and everything, so they did an ECG, didn't like it, and kicked me down. But I have been up there since and back down absolutely fine. Oh yeah, just a couple more Everest. So I was trying to talk about Everest forever. So yeah, so here's where you actually get the first view of Everest. Sort of up there somewhere. So that's it, slightly enlarged. That was a little avalanche I managed to catch as we were walking along. And that's my group that I went with. But that's us in a nightclub, believe it or not. The highest nightclub in the world. Little gloves on. So yeah, you can see some of the scenery, and that's me sunbathing, recovering. Okay, so Kilimanjaro, so this is a little bit more what I'm going to be doing. So this trek here, it goes from everything where you start down in lush vegetation with monkeys, and then you go right up through the rocky stuff. So here we have this path. This is called the Branco Wall, and it is a really big steep wall. So it's not really climbing, it's sort of scrambling. But if you don't like heights and things, you won't like it. And you can see here, this is all people, little coloured dots. Going all the way back down there. This is at the end of the walk, well, at the end of the trek. It took a week, I think. And there I've got like as many layers as possible as I can get on, and that's at the top. So the actual top isn't covered in snow when we went. This is the sort of the top bit there, but sometimes it can be covered in snow. We went at September time, but we did have a wet day, so you get everything from sort of shorts, wet weather, freezing cold. Saw amazing sunrise, and you could actually see sort of the curvature of the earth, which is fantastic. Absolutely amazing. And then I did do lots of yoga poses on the way as well, but I haven't put them all up there. Okay, so getting on to why we're all here tonight, my month long. So, pre-event training. I've been walking with a heavy rucksack, so my rucksack, the heaviest I've got it up to is 17 kilograms. Now this is quite light at the moment, but that is my big rucksack that I will have to wear. As you can see, it's pretty big. If anyone wants to feel it, feel free. Just be careful. So I will be using that rucksack when we're out going on the higher camps, not on the lower camps. I'll be running obviously and doing things. And then I will be going over to Arola in Switzerland, where I'll have 7 days where I'll have to learn how to tie myself onto ropes, how to use the crampons, how to use the ice axe, how to do all sorts of things like that. And then the actual climb is over 3 days. So let me tell you about the climb. It says here you can expect every day in the mountain to be carrying a rucksack of 10 kilograms, so actually it's slightly lighter than what I've been training with, for at least 7 hours. I'm walking about 10 miles, climbing about 1,500 metres. And you'll be doing that on several days in a row. We start off day 2, walking to a hut, and then day 3 is our big climb, when we actually climb all the way up to the top and then come back down. Day 5, sorry, this is the training one, isn't it? Sorry, I wasn't even reading my own writing. Sorry, those are the different training days, days 2 to 7. That's what I was telling you about. So day 1, so we have a briefing first of all, and carrying what equipment we're going to need. Then we catch actually a train or a cable car up to Nid de Argel, and then we climb from there up to the Terra Rose Hut. So that's our first night. So you can see here we start sort of down in Chamonix, climb up, stay overnight. We continue climbing up the next day. So day 2 is our actual Centre Mont Blanc, which will take 8 to 12 hours. So we go from here all the way up, and then we come back down to this one, which is a little bit higher than where we were down here. And then the next day we come back down. So that's just 3 days. So it's 1, 2, and then 3. So that's our 3 days of climbing. And then I just want to end by saying thank you so much for coming tonight. I hope that's been of interest to you. So far, donations that I've received, I've added them all up. Now, it's actually going to come to more than that because some of you bought some more raffle tickets tonight. But I set myself a target of raising £1,000, and so far we have beat that. So thank you very much, everyone. And on that note, I'd like to hand over to Stephen, and he can tell you a little bit more about what you've raised the money for.
Thank you,
Stephen,
Jane.
thank you.
How do I follow that? It's inspirational. I have to say, I've never run a marathon.
It's time yet?
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Bedford Daycare Hospice. My name's Steve and I'm the general manager here. I've been here for about 11 months, so quite new to the hospice. The hospice itself was founded 30 years ago, so we celebrate our 30th anniversary. We're having a bit of a party in the summer. And originally it was set up because one of the founders saw a gap for people who've been diagnosed with life-limiting conditions, who needed some support, some respite care. So they set about fundraising, and they raised a sum of money with a view to being able to purchase this property. And they got slightly less than half the amount, and then somebody came along, a local businessman, and offered the balance to purchase the property. So we own 3/7 of this building, and it was set up to provide services, as I say, for people, adults over the age of 18, life-limiting conditions, and the services have remained pretty much the same, evolved in some areas, but what we offer now is health and wellbeing days. So someone who's been diagnosed with a life-limiting condition, they can come along and it's respite for them. A lot of our patients have restricted mobility, they might be in wheelchairs, so they're often in the same 4 walls. And so to come here for 1 day a week perhaps, or maybe 2 days a week sometimes, it's respite for the patient away from their environment and from their family member, their carer. It's respite for the family member or the carer to have a few hours to look after themselves, go shopping, etc. So when the patients are here, there's various activities they take part in. They get a light lunch, refreshments. We have fantastic volunteers such as Rita, who comes along and offers us catering support. It's nurse-led, so we have registered nurses, we have healthcare assistants, so they look after the patients. The patients often see the nurses more regularly than they might see their own GP or their own consultant, so the nurses can see any deterioration in the condition, and they can signpost, they can refer back to specialists, etc. We do things like music therapy, reminiscence therapy, gentle exercises, quizzes, all manner of activities. And the patients that come along, they tend to come on the same day every week, so they get to know the circle of people and they get very good peer support, emotional support. We have other days, so tomorrow for example we have cancer support drop-in session in the morning. Patients come along, they can share the sort of journey with cancer. We tend to get younger patients on that sort of day, get a lot of support from each other, from the staff here as well. We have things like a respiratory conditions program, Parkinson's education, so people who've been newly diagnosed with Parkinson's or different diseases come along and we can do education sessions. We have something called a HOPE course, which is a course that was set up by Macmillan, and we run that. I think it's an 8-week program, so patients come along and they take part in this program. We have bereavement support as well, counselling sessions. We have volunteer complementary therapists come in, they do Reiki and acupuncture, that sort of thing. So these are the services that the patients benefit from. We've been going 30 years. In our last financial year, it probably cost us something like £620,000 expenditure. We receive a grant from the local clinical commissioning group, the NHS, of approximately £50,000. But the balance we have to generate ourselves through fantastic fundraising activities such as Jane's, through donations. We have 5 charity shops. We have in the garden what we call our butterfly boutique. It's just a very sort of low-key charity shop essentially, and it's mainly for the benefit of the patients. Some of the ladies who come like to go out, someone will take them out and they might buy a few little bits and pieces. Often it's just retail therapy, they can't get to the shops. So we also, because we own a portion of the building, we have flats upstairs, let to private tenants, so we get that rental income. But we just have to generate most of our income ourselves. And so we're so incredibly grateful to people like Jane. It's inspirational, to see all of the things that you've done and the effort that you put in. And, we're so very, very grateful to people like Jane who come along and support us, and to yourselves as well. What else can I say? We have a very lean staff here. We probably have a total of about 26 staff. Most of them are part-time, and probably 13 or 14 of those staff are on the retail side, so out in the charity shops. We have registered nurses here, bank staff as well. There's myself and one other member of staff who are full-time, and the rest are part-time. We rely very heavily on volunteers. So we have volunteers who assist with teas and coffees when patients are in. People like Rita, who comes along and helps prepare the meals for patients. Some patients have to have special meals if they have difficulty swallowing or gluten-free. We have a fantastic team of volunteer gardeners who look after the garden, so it's a nice place for the patients to go out and sit out there. We have volunteers in the shops, manning our boutique and helping out in the stores. We have volunteer patient drivers. We were donated a van not so long ago by another charity which enables us to collect furniture when people are having house clearances. And so we have volunteer van drivers, we sell the furniture in the shops. So we're having a volunteer recognition day next week. If anybody is interested in becoming a volunteer and wants to find out about the types of roles we have, please come along and make yourself known. But thank you very much for coming along this evening, for supporting Jane and ultimately supporting Bedford Daycare Hospice. The final thing I'd say is, whenever you think of the word hospice, particularly, if you've had a family member pass through a hospice perhaps, you might consider it a place of sadness and grief. But this place, it's really, it's full of joy. And when we have patients in, I have to close my office door sometimes because the noise coming out, the music, the singing, the laughter, they're throwing balls into buckets, going round, and they get very competitive, and it's just joyous to hear people enjoying themselves, and that's what we try to do, to help them to make the most of the life that they have, and support them and their family members whilst they're here. So thank you very much once again for coming along this evening, and thank you particularly to Jane for everything you're doing for the hospice. Thank you.